They didn't even save me a damn chair. I walked into the Oak Hollow Country Club at 1 o'clock sharp, dress shirt pressed, shoes clean, and stomach half empty. Rebecca told me it was a family lunch. Her side, obviously. But I figured after 8 years of marriage, that included me. Guess not. "My name's Jack Stratton," I told the hostess, who looked barely old enough to pour a glass of wine. "There should be a reservation. Should be under Stratton, or maybe Underwood." She scanned her list with zero urgency. "No Stratton or Underwood, sir." "You sure?" I asked. "My wife's family's supposed to be here already. Big table, probably for 6. Right then, I spotted them through the glass partition. Rebecca's parents, her 2 brothers, and Rebecca herself, already halfway through appetizers. Laughing, no empty chairs. "Jack," a voice cut in from behind me. It was her father, Gerald Underwood. White-haired, crisp navy blazer, smug as ever. "This is a family lunch." I blinked. "I am family." He gave this tight smile, like I'd told a joke, but he didn't find it funny. "Let's not make a scene." I glanced back at the table. Rebecca saw me, but she didn't wave, didn't get up, didn't move, just looked down at her plate like I was the valet who wandered in too far. "There's no extra seat," the hostess said gently, like she was trying to shoo me toward the exit. "I noticed," I muttered. Gerald leaned in. "You should have known your place by now, Jack." The words hit hard, like a punch, but cleaner, polite, surgical. I felt the heat rush into my neck, but I didn't give him the reaction he wanted. I smiled. "You're right," I said, calm as hell. "Can you get the club manager for me, please?" The hostess looked confused. Gerald raised an eyebrow. "I'd just like a quick word," I added, adjusting my collar. "Won't take long." I didn't look at Rebecca again. I didn't need to. The message was loud and clear, and yeah, it stung, but I wasn't going to let them walk all over me like I didn't belong there, like I hadn't earned my seat at the table. I stepped aside and waited for the manager to show up. Mr. Callahan walked out from behind the bar like he owned the place, because technically he kinda did. Tall guy, mid-60s, full head of gray hair, firm handshake type. He spotted me and broke into a grin before he even made it halfway across the floor. "Jack Stratton," he said, arms open like I was family. "What the hell are you doing out here in the lobby?" "Waiting on you, apparently," I said, stepping forward. "Good to see you, Tony." He clapped a hand on my shoulder. "It's been too long. You still fixing other people's disasters, or did you finally retire early like you threatened?" Gerald cleared his throat behind me, loud and pointed. "Tony," he said, "we were just—" "Mister." Callahan didn't even look at him. "Did you come to eat or stand around?" he asked me. "I thought I was invited to lunch," I said, keeping it cool. Turns out I was mistaken. Callahan's smile faded. "You here with Rebecca's people?" "Apparently not," I said, jerking my head toward their table. He looked over. His eyes caught on Gerald, then Karen, then the 2 brothers who were now suddenly focused on their drinks. Rebecca still wouldn't look up. Callahan's mouth tightened. "That's a damn shame." He turned to the hostess. "Get Mr. Stratton seated at table 7, full service. Make sure George is his waiter." "Table 7's already set," she said, hesitating. "I know," Callahan said. "It's mine." Gerald stepped forward, fake chuckle in his voice. "Well, Tony, I guess it helps to know the right people." Callahan gave him a sharp look. "Yeah, it does." I followed the hostess past the dining room, past their table. I didn't look at Rebecca, but I felt her eyes on me now. Of course. Now she was paying attention. Table 7 was on the patio, corner spot, best view in the house. Manicured greens stretching out past the glass railing, soft music playing, heat lamps on low. White linens, real silverware, cloth napkins, not paper. "Damn, Tony," I said as he joined me. "Didn't realize I was still on the VIP list." "You helped build this place," he said. "Consulting, design input, back-end operations. I remember it all. You saved us hundreds of thousands." "Glad someone remembers." "Some people got short memories," he said, giving a glance back toward the dining room. A waiter appeared, gave me a fresh menu and a cold iced tea without even asking. George. Still here after all these years. I smiled. "Good to see you, man." "You too, sir," he said. From the patio, I had a perfect view of their table inside. Gerald was chewing like he had something to prove. Karen sat stiff, hands in her lap. The brothers weren't smirking anymore. They looked uncomfortable as hell. One of them actually turned to say something to Rebecca, who didn't answer. I ordered steak, medium rare, and didn't rush a damn bite. Let every piece sit on my tongue a second longer than necessary. I was gonna enjoy this. When the wine came, a bottle I didn't order, I raised an eyebrow at George. "Compliments of Mr. Callahan," he said. I poured myself a glass, lifted it in their direction, not high, just enough. Gerald noticed. His jaw set, but he didn't move. Karen looked like someone had just told her the family dog got run over. I drank slow. They could barely finish their food after that. You could see it. The silence at that table, the side glances, the fork scraping ceramic, that smug little setup they thought they pulled, completely flipped on them. Rebecca finally looked my way, just for a second. I didn't blink, didn't smile, didn't wave. She looked away. Good. They wanted to make a point. I made one louder. Rebecca finally looked my way, just for a second. I didn't blink, didn't smile, didn't wave. She looked away. Good. I cut another piece of steak, chewed slow, let the bitterness mix with the salt. The laughter at their table had stopped. Nobody was talking now. Gerald stared at his napkin like it had insulted him. Her brothers looked around like maybe they wished they'd picked a different restaurant. Rebecca never looked up again. That told me everything. She knew. I don't care what she says later. She knew. There's no way you show up to a six-top table with 5 people and forget to save a seat for your husband. No way you don't notice the text I sent this morning saying, "Looking forward to lunch." She saw it. She saw all of it. And she still let me walk in there alone like some idiot crashing a party he was never meant to be at. And it wasn't the first time. That charity gala last spring, the one her dad's firm sponsored, I showed up in a navy suit and brown shoes, and Gerald introduced me to one of his board members as Rebecca's +1. Didn't even say my name, just smiled like I was the bartender who wandered in. Then there was the Mexico trip they accidentally booked while I was traveling for work. Whole family went. Rebecca said it was last minute. Flights were planned, rooms were booked, matching outfits in the group photos. I wasn't in a single one, not even a mention. And my birthday? Gerald gave that toast like it was his own damn party. Thanked everyone for being part of the family's success. Everyone, but me. That wasn't random. That was a pattern. I stabbed another piece of steak, stared out at the golf course. The perfect green grass I helped save when I rewrote the club's vendor contracts. My ideas, my time, my money. But I wasn't good enough for their table. I came from the wrong circles. Gerald made sure I knew that every time he opened his mouth. Born in Indiana, raised by a single mom, went to state school on a scholarship. No legacy, no family firm. Just a resume and a spine. And Rebecca, she used to love that about me. Said I was real. Said I grounded her. Now she couldn't even meet my eyes. That lunch wasn't an accident. It was a setup. A quiet little test. And I failed. Not by walking in, but by believing I ever mattered to them. By thinking she would warn me. Tell me the truth. But Rebecca didn't say a word. She sat there in her cream blazer and pearl earrings and let her father humiliate me like it was nothing. Because to her, it was nothing. I drained the last of the wine and sat back, stomach full but chest burning. They weren't just pushing me out. They were wiping me clean. I didn't say a word on the drive home. Neither did Rebecca. The hum of the tires filled the space where an apology should have been. She kicked off her heels the second we walked into the house and dropped her purse on the counter. "You made that whole thing weird," she said, opening the fridge like nothing happened. I shut the door behind us. "You left me standing at the front desk." She sighed, already annoyed. "It was just lunch, Jack. You're turning it into something it wasn't." I took a step closer. "Your father told me I wasn't family." She shrugged. "You know how he is." "That's your answer?" She turned, arms crossed. "You're too sensitive. He didn't mean it like that." I laughed once, sharp. "He meant it exactly like that, and you let it happen." She shook her head. "I'm not doing this." "You always do this," I said. "Every time it's me or them, you pick them." "That's not fair." "Isn't it?" I asked. "When your brother needed money for his startup, whose savings did that come from?" Her eyes flicked away. "We already talked about that." "Say the number," I said. She hesitated. 50,000. My 50,000, I said. Money I earned, money I saved. She waved her hand like she was brushing off dust. That's what family does. The words landed wrong. Not loud, not dramatic, just clear. Family, I repeated. Funny how that only goes one direction. She rolled her eyes. You're acting like they used you. They did, I said, and you let them. She grabbed her phone. I'm not arguing over this again. I watched her walk down the hall, shoulders tight, already done with me. No fight left. Or maybe there never was one. Not for me. I stood there a second, feeling something settle in my chest. Not anger, not even hurt. Just understanding. That night, after she went to bed, I opened my laptop at the dining table, pulled up our shared drive, tax returns, bank statements, old emails, investment summaries, stuff I'd skimmed 100 times and trusted without thinking. I stopped trusting. I followed the money first. Transfers from my portfolio to accounts in her name, labeled temporary, internal, reallocation. My jaw tightened. Then I opened a folder I hadn't seen before. Password protected. Her birthday, of course. Inside were contracts, operating agreements, capital contribution records. My name wasn't on the letterhead, but the numbers were familiar. I scrolled slower now, heart thumping, cursor hovering like it might bite me. Dates lined up with conversations I remembered. We'll keep it simple. Just paperwork. It's easier this way. I leaned back in the chair and stared at the screen, the house dead quiet around me. Whatever I thought I knew about my place in that family, and in my own marriage, was wrong, and I had the documents to prove it. I leaned back in the chair and opened another file. This one wasn't buried. It sat right there in plain sight, labeled capital contributions. Clean, professional. Rebecca's name listed as a partner buy-in to Underwood Strategic Investments. The amount made my stomach drop. Same number, same dates, same wire transfers I'd traced minutes earlier, pulled straight from my portfolio. The money I gave her years ago when she said she wanted independence and asked for a short-term loan, said she'd pay it back once bonuses hit. She never did. Because she didn't need to. She used my money to buy her seat at her family's table. I scrolled further, hands steady now. No shaking, no panic, just focus. The documents laid it all out. My capital, her name, their firm. Neat and quiet. Like it was always meant to stay that way. Then I opened the communications folder. Emails, texts, internal memos. That's when it got ugly. There were threads between Gerald and Rebecca going back years. Subject lines like revenue restructure and cost efficiency review. I clicked one. Gerald wrote, Jack's model actually makes sense. If we streamline vendor contracts the way he suggests, margins could double inside 12 months. Another, he's right about scaling advisory fees. Don't bring it up at the board meeting. We'll roll it out gradually. Then one that stuck in my throat. Make sure Jack doesn't get his hopes up. We don't want him thinking this is his win. I sat there staring at the screen, jaw tight. They knew. All of them knew. Every idea I'd walked Rebecca through at the kitchen table. Every late-night call where she asked, what would you do? Every spreadsheet I built just to help. It all went straight into the firm. Revenue charts showed the impact clear as day. The year before my input, flat. The year after, nearly doubled. Clean lines climbing fast, no credit, no acknowledgement, no mention of my name outside private messages passed between family. I wasn't a partner, I was labor. I scrolled through more messages. Gerald praising the approach. Karen talking about how smart it was to let Jack think he was helping. One brother joking about how I worked cheaper than consultants. I didn't feel angry. That surprised me. I felt calm, like the last puzzle piece had finally clicked into place. The lunches, the comments, the way Gerald talked around me, the way Rebecca always smoothed things over instead of standing up. They didn't respect me because they didn't have to. I closed the laptop and sat there for a second, hands flat on the table. The house was quiet. Rebecca was asleep down the hall, breathing easy. I wasn't. I picked up my phone and stepped onto the back patio, cool night air hitting my face. I scrolled until I found the number I hadn't used in years. David Keller, the voicemail answered. Leave a message. "David, it's Jack Stratton," I said, voice even. "I need to meet, tomorrow if possible. I've got documents, a lot of them." I ended the call and went back inside. At the table, I started organizing files, downloaded copies, forwarded emails to a private account, renamed folders, built a timeline, not out of spite, out of precision. By the time the clock hit 2 in the morning, I had everything lined up. Every dollar, every idea, every quiet thank you message that never went public. I shut the laptop and slid it into my bag. Tomorrow, I was done being useful. Tomorrow, I was getting out. I turned off the light and walked down the hall, already dialing my lawyer back. A week later, I was pulling through the front gates of Gerald's country estate in the Audi, the one I paid for, not that anyone in that house ever asked. Gravel crunched under the tires. Their circle driveway was full. Mercedes, BMWs, one Range Rover that definitely wasn't paid off. I stepped out wearing a black sport coat, no tie, clean shave, and calm in my chest, like I'd just walked off a battlefield I'd already won. All I brought was a sealed manila envelope under my arm. The butler, yeah, they actually had a damn butler, opened the door and led me in without a word. Formal dining room was already buzzing, crystal glassware, low jazz. Gerald's private chef bringing out hors d'oeuvres no one actually liked but all pretended to. Rebecca's brothers were at the far end. Her mom sat stiff, arms crossed like she already smelled trouble. Rebecca stood by the fireplace, drink in hand, eyes on me, but not moving. Good. Stay right there. Gerald turned from some older man in a suit and gave me the same cold smile he always used when he was about to throw a punch with words. "Jack," he said, loud enough to cut through the music. "Glad you could make it," I nodded. "Figured I'd give it one more shot." He came over and extended a drink. "Macallan, neat. Your favorite, isn't it?" I took it, didn't sip. "Thanks." He turned to the rest of the room. "Everyone, you know Jack, Rebecca's husband." That was it. No mention of what I did, who I was, what I built. And he sure didn't introduce me to the older guy next to him. The guest of honor, apparently. Some investment partner from Boston. Someone who did get along. Fawning intro minutes earlier, while I stood by the coat rack like hired help. I didn't interrupt. I waited. Let him finish his little welcome speech. Let the toasts pass. Let the wine pour. I waited until the appetizers were cleared and the room was just full enough and just quiet enough. Then I stepped forward and laid the envelope in front of him. "Thought you'd want to see this," I said. Gerald blinked at it, like it might explode. "What is it?" he asked. "Ownership documents," I said, outlining my silent equity stake in Underwood Strategic. The room stopped. I saw Rebecca's brothers exchange a look. Karen set down her wine glass without drinking. Rebecca didn't move. Gerald slowly peeled open the envelope, pulled out the paperwork. I watched his face shift as he read. Page 1, page 2. My name, my numbers. The breakdown. The paper trail. 49%, I said, loud enough for everyone to hear. That's what I funded. That's what I advised. That's what I own. Gerald's lips parted, but nothing came out at first. Then, You did this behind our backs?" "No," I said. "I did it right in front of your face. You just weren't paying attention." The Boston guy looked uncomfortable now, shifting in his chair. One of the brothers muttered something under his breath and turned red. Gerald shoved the papers back in the envelope like that'd make them disappear. "We'll discuss this privately." "No," I said, straightening up. "We're discussing it now. I'll be pulling out. You can either sell your stock or buy mine. Either way, we're done." Karen looked like she might faint. Rebecca opened her mouth, but nothing came out. I turned toward her. "You could have warned them. You could have warned me. But you chose to stay quiet." She didn't deny it. Gerald stepped toward me, full of fake calm. "Jack, this isn't how business is done." "Then consider it a gift," I said. "One last lesson, free of charge." I walked out without touching the drink, left the envelope sitting right where it belonged, in the middle of their perfect dinner, ruining every bite. I walked straight out the front door and didn't look back. The second it shut behind me, voices exploded inside, Gerald barking, someone knocking over a chair, Karen yelling, "Do something!" like the roof was caving in. I kept walking, slow, steady. Gravel crunching under my shoes again, Same sound as when I arrived, but everything felt different. "Jack!" I heard her heels first, then Rebecca's voice behind me, desperate now. "Jack, wait!" I didn't. She caught up halfway down the driveway, grabbing my arm. "You can't just drop a bomb like that and leave." I stopped. "Sure I can." Her eyes were wide, rimmed red already. "You just destroyed everything." I looked her dead in the face. "I didn't destroy it. I just stopped building it for you." She stepped back like I slapped her. "You blindsided me," she said, voice cracking. "You made a scene in front of everyone." "No," I said. "Your dad made a scene when he invited me to a table that was never mine. You stood there and watched. That's not marriage, Rebecca. That's performance." She shook her head, tears now sliding down her cheek. "I didn't know he'd—" "Don't," I cut in. "You knew. Maybe not every detail, but you knew. You knew where the money came from. You knew how much I helped. You knew what they were doing to me. I didn't think it was like this. But you let it happen anyway." She wrapped her arms around herself. "They've always been like this. I didn't think I could change them." "You didn't have to," I said. "You just had to choose me, and you didn't." She stared at the ground, then looked up, panic creeping in. "What happens now?" "The papers come tomorrow." Her breath hitched. "Jack, come on. Don't do this. Don't let them ruin us." "They didn't ruin us," I said. "You did." I started walking again. "Wait," she said. "We can fix this. We can talk." "You want to talk?" I turned back. "You can talk to your dad. Maybe he'll explain where the last decade of my life went." She didn't follow me this time. She just stood there in the driveway, crying in a dress that probably cost more than the couch she never sat on. I got in my car, shut the door, and pulled out without one last look. The drive downtown was quiet. No music, just the sound of the engine and my own breathing. I didn't feel angry. I didn't feel relieved. I felt finished. I pulled into the garage of the condo, the one I bought 3 years ago in my name alone. Said it was for investment purposes, but now it felt like insurance. Back then, I just needed a place that was mine. Turned out, I was right. The door clicked behind me, and I dropped the keys on the granite counter. Open floor plan, floor-to-ceiling windows, everything clean, simple, untouched. I kicked off my shoes, unbuttoned my shirt, and stood in the middle of the room. Alone. Not abandoned, just free. The elevator doors opened straight into David Keller's office. Clean lines, glass walls, no fluff. My name was already on the sign-in sheet. The receptionist nodded, said, "He's expecting you," and I walked in without hesitating. David stood when I entered. "Morning, Jack." "Let's get it done," I said. The folder was already waiting for me, thick, final, heavy with signatures. I sat down, took the pen, and signed every page without asking a single question. No second-guessing, no last-minute nerves. The marriage was done. The partnership? That died long before the papers. David flipped the last page and nodded. "Congratulations, you're officially free." I exhaled. Not relief, just release. He slid over a second document. "This one's for the firm." I scanned it quick. Gerald's signature looked like it had been dragged across the line with clenched teeth. Rebecca's was clean, no heart, no flourish. I signed my name across the bottom, bold, final, and leaned back. Ownership split confirmed. Technically, I got 51%. More than fair, considering I paid for it with my own damn money. "She tried to fight it," David said, folding the papers. "Her lawyer claimed implied joint contribution. We showed them the bank statements, emails, investment history. Receipts don't lie." David nodded. "Gerald threatened to sue." "Let me guess," I said. He folded. Quicker than I expected. Once I pointed out the signed advisory contracts and the acknowledgement clauses, he realized the hole he'd be digging. "Smart move," I said. "For once." David sat back, arms crossed. "You know they really thought you'd roll over." "I did," I said. "For years." He looked at me a second, then gave a half smile. "Not anymore." I shook his hand and left the office with copies in a thin black folder under my arm. Truth on paper. No more arguing, no more being talked in circles. Just hard proof of what I built. And what they tried to steal. Out on the sidewalk, people rushed past like nothing had changed, but everything had. They used me because I let them, because I kept quiet, because I told myself it wasn't worth the fight. But it was. The money wasn't the win, the divorce wasn't the closure. It was knowing I finally saw them for what they were, and myself for who I really was. Not just the guy behind the curtain, not just the help, not anymore. Now I had leverage. And I wasn't afraid to use it. I got home before sunset and headed straight to the rooftop deck. Sky was streaked in orange and blue, buildings glowing like they'd been lit from inside. The city hummed below me, traffic, sirens, horns. But up there, it was quiet. Just me, the wind, and the sound of my own glass tapping against the railing. I poured 2 fingers of scotch and took a seat in the chair I'd picked out myself. No one argued with me about color or budget or if it matched the space. It was mine. Phone buzzed, text from Rebecca. "Can we talk?" I stared at it for maybe 3 seconds. "Talk to your father." Sent. Then I blocked the number. No hesitation. No second draft. I set the phone down and leaned back, let the breeze cut through the quiet. A minute later, it rang again. New number. I let it go to voicemail, listened with one thumb hovering over the speaker. Gerald's voice. "Jack, I think we should talk. Business only. You have time this week?" Click. I didn't save the number, didn't respond, just hit delete. Then I took another sip of scotch and smiled, not wide, not dramatic, just enough to feel it in my jaw. There was no anger left, no heat in my chest, no need to prove anything. I wasn't bitter, I was done. Done being the quiet partner, the easy target, the one holding the ladder while everyone else climbed. They used me. But I walked away with the company, the condo, and my name clean. No one could take credit for me anymore. For the first time in years, everything in front of me was mine. No shared passwords, no second guesses, no walking on eggshells. Just clear sky and a city I built my life in. And this time, I owed nothing to anyone who ever doubted me.